If you are over 55, you have probably spent decades giving your time, your energy, and your peace to everyone else. You built a life, you raised a family, or you carried a career. But somehow, peace still feels like something you have to fight for every single day. You are not alone in feeling this exhaustion. In the year 165 AD, Emperor Marcus Aurelius felt it too. During a devastating empire-wide crisis, he sat down and wrote 7 private rules to protect his own mind. These were not rules for running Rome, they were rules for surviving it. Today we are going to look at these 7 Stoic rules to help you finally reclaim the peace you have already earned. Rule number 7. Stop explaining your choices to people who have already decided what they think. There is a very specific, heavy exhaustion that comes from justifying yourself to people who never really wanted an explanation in the first place. Think about the conversations that leave you feeling entirely drained. Usually, the other person was not genuinely asking for your perspective to understand you. They were asking because they wanted you to agree with them. And when you do not agree, your explanations naturally get longer, more detailed, and more desperate. But all those words still land nowhere useful. The problem was never a lack of information on their part. The problem was their total unwillingness to see things from your point of view. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we should never value anything that makes us lose our self-respect. Every single time you offer a detailed explanation to someone who has already made up their mind, you are making a small withdrawal from the bank account of your own self-respect. Explaining yourself to someone who refuses to listen is not real communication. It is a performance. And let us be completely honest here. After 55 years on this earth, you have performed enough. You have jumped through enough hoops. Your choices belong to you now. If you want to stay home instead of going to a draining family event, you can just say no. Your decisions require your own understanding, not anyone else's approval. Let them misunderstand you. Their confusion is not your problem to solve anymore. Rule number 6. Let the opinions of people who do not know your full story stay exactly where they belong. Other people will always judge your life from the outside. They look at your current situation and form an opinion in about 3 seconds, but they were never there for the hard decisions you had to make in the dark. They were never present for the sleepless nights, and they never had to pay the real emotional and financial cost of your choices. Yet if you are a deeply caring person, you probably spend an enormous amount of energy trying to manage those outside opinions. You might soften your boundaries just to fit what your neighbors or your extended family expect from you. You carry the quiet weight of being misunderstood by people who were never actually equipped to understand you in the first place. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic teachers, taught that we are disturbed not by things, but by our opinions of things. An opinion formed by someone without full knowledge of your life is a completely useless object. It holds no real power. The disturbing thing is rarely what someone actually said about you. The disturbing thing is the massive significance you accidentally assigned to their words. It is incredibly liberating to realize that people are allowed to be wrong about you. You do not have to correct the record. Their uneducated opinion was never worth the heavy weight you gave it. And it is certainly not worth the peace it cost you to carry it around today. Drop it right now. Rule 5. Protect the morning before the world arrives in it. This rule sounds small and almost too simple until you actually practice it long enough to feel the massive shift it produces in your body. The first hour of your morning quietly determines the entire quality of your day. It is the only guaranteed time you have before the demands, the phone notifications, and the endless needs of everyone around you begin to set the tone for you. Think about how you wake up. Do you immediately reach for a screen? Do you turn on the morning news or fall into the trap of endless video feeds, letting the anxiety of the world flood your living room before you even have your shoes on? Marcus Aurelius spent his early hours writing to himself before the massive demands of the Roman Empire were allowed into his space. He did this because he understood a fundamental truth. A person who does not claim the morning will spend the rest of the day fighting to reclaim ground they never should have surrendered. Seneca advised us to retire into ourselves as much as possible. Give yourself one single hour that belongs to nobody else. Sit with a cup of coffee in total silence. Look out the window, write down a few thoughts. Just exist without being useful to anyone else for 60 minutes. That single uninterrupted hour is the difference between a day you lead and a day that violently leads you. The first 3 rules we just covered are designed to protect your peace from the outside, but what comes next works entirely from the inside out. Rule 4 is the one that most people in this season of life have been waiting decades to hear someone say out loud. Rule 4. You are allowed to want things for yourself without apology. For the last 2 or 3 decades, wanting things for yourself probably felt deeply selfish. When you are building a life, there are always more pressing needs around you. There is always a child who needs something, a partner who requires support, or a boss whose requirements seem far more urgent than your own quiet desires. You learn to put yourself at the very bottom of the priority list because society tells us that is what good people do. But the Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote a very clear instruction for us. He said we must reclaim ourselves for ourselves. He did not offer this as a gentle suggestion. He wrote it as a firm command because he knew the terrible cost of postponing your own life in service of everyone else. Wanting to travel somewhere you have always dreamed of is not a selfish act. Wanting a quiet afternoon where absolutely nothing is required of you is not selfish. Pursuing a weird new hobby simply because it brings a smile to your face is not selfish. You are allowed to take up space in your own life. This is exactly what a person who has given enormously is allowed to want. You can want things without offering a grand explanation, without feeling guilty, and without waiting for a moment that feels less inconvenient to the people around you. Rule 3. Release what you cannot change before it changes you. By the time you reach 55, you have accumulated a lot of history, and with that history comes heavy baggage. You might still be carrying things that stopped serving a purpose a very long time ago. We hold on to old resentments that never received the apology they deserved. We hold on to deep grief about the distance between the perfect life we planned in our 20s and the messy life that actually arrived. We hold on to disappointment in friends who turned out to be completely different from who they appeared to be. Marcus Aurelius made it his very first rule to keep an untroubled spirit. This means looking at your past with brutal honesty and acknowledging what it cost you, but actively choosing not to let it ruin your present moment. It means looking things in the face and knowing them for what they are. The past is entirely outside of your control. No amount of regret will change what happened. But an untroubled spirit makes the deliberate decision not to let the unchangeable past continue, setting the emotional temperature of today. What cannot be altered must be released. When you finally release it, it stops charging you daily interest. You have paid enough for those old mistakes. Forgive yourself, forgive the universe, and drop the heavy bags you have been dragging behind you for years. Rule 2 is the one people usually resist the longest because it feels completely backwards to everything modern society has taught us. But it perfectly sets up Rule 1, which I believe is the ultimate life-changing secret to finding lasting peace in your later years. Rule 2. Choose depth over volume in every area of your life. When we are young, we are taught that more is always better. We want more friends, more invitations, more money, more activities, and more presence in more places. Chasing volume is a young person's strategy for finding meaning. But after 55 years, you have accumulated enough real-world experience to know the truth. The things that mattered most in your life were almost never the things that took up the most space or made the most noise. The relationships that truly fed your soul were rarely the biggest groups of friends at a crowded party. The most meaningful moments were rarely the expensive vacations you spent 6 months planning. The real joy was always found in the quiet, simple things. Epictetus told us to seek the good inside ourselves, not in external things. In this new season of your life, the winning strategy is radically different. The goal is fewer things, held more fully. You want less spread across more surfaces, and much more depth in the few places that genuinely matter. Cultivate 2 deep friendships instead of managing 20 shallow acquaintances. Enjoy one quiet evening walking in the park instead of packing your weekend with endless social obligations. When you learn to choose depth over volume, you are not living a smaller life. You are living a much more accurate and beautiful one. Rule 1. Peace is not a reward waiting at the end of sacrifice. This final rule takes the longest to truly accept, but it changes absolutely everything about how you live your life once you finally do. Most people who have spent a lifetime giving and showing up for others carry a quiet, unexamined belief. We secretly believe that peace will eventually arrive as a grand reward. We think that one day, when all the bills are paid, when everyone in the family is okay, and when the last difficult chapter finally closes, peace will just show up at our front door to thank us for our hard work. We live waiting for the finish line, but peace does not arrive that way. The finish line is an illusion. Marcus Aurelius realized that 19 years of brutal sacrifice for the Roman Empire never produced peace automatically. There was always another crisis waiting for him. He wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Peace is not waiting for the perfect external conditions to grant you permission to feel it. It is not being withheld by the universe until you prove yourself worthy through more suffering. Peace is a fierce, deliberate decision that you make right now, in the middle of the mess. You have already given enough. You have already endured enough. You have carried weights that nobody else will ever fully understand. You do not need to earn peace anymore. You just need to claim it. The peaceful life is available to you today. You just have to stop waiting for someone else to tell you that you are allowed to have it. Marcus Aurelius shared these rules, not because he was a perfect human being, but because he deeply understood what it costs a person to go without them for too long. He knew that a life without boundaries is a life of constant exhaustion. If you are ready to stop waiting and start claiming that peace, hit the subscribe button right now. We are building a strong group of people here who are finally choosing themselves, and we want you to be part of it. Before you click away, drop a comment below and tell me which of these 7 rules hit home for you the hardest. Your realization might be the exact spark someone else needs to read today,